Well, patronage on trains, buses and ferries in southeast Queensland plummeted by more than 80% at the height of our lockdowns. But official figures show small numbers of people are returning to public transport as restrictions ease. So as more of us travel around the city, heading into work or going to school, is public transport safe? I put that question to Transport Minister Mark Bailey a little earlier.
Look, it is safe. We have at the moment a huge reduction in volume, like most jurisdictions. So we're down 77%. So there's a lot of social distancing on public transport. But of course, we ask people to do the usual things like social distancing, hygiene, to make sure that you've got your hands sanitised or washed with soap before you go into a public space, and also when you leave a public space if you can.
I guess it's been easy to physically distance on trains and buses lately because, as you say, there have been so few people on board. But we saw quite startling scenes in London last week, for example, of people cramming onto the tube. How are you going to avoid scenes like that here?
Well, look, we obviously have much bigger, wider trains than the London Underground trains, which are very small and very tight. But we've got contingency planning in terms of how we progress and go forward. At the moment, there's a lot of capacity on the system, both bus, train and ferry, and we'll monitor how we go as people go back to work. Now, it's unlikely that we're going to be going back in exactly the same form that we had before, because some people will continue to work from home. We'll probably see staggered work rosters, both public and private, going forward to spread that peak period so that we've got a more even spread on our public transport system. A lot of people are cycling as well.
So as trains and buses get busier, what does that look like? What is the planning? Does it include imposing passenger limits, for example, to ensure social distancing?
Well, look, we're looking at all kinds of measures. There's already some measures in place. So people will have noticed that there's rear door boarding only. So there's a bit of a buffer from passengers to the driver. The seats behind the driver are being cordoned off. And of course, we've moved to cashless as well. So there's less interaction going on. So there's already safety measures in place. We will be looking into the future in terms of, do we need to supplement some services with additional buses? That's certainly a possibility.
If people avoid public transport and drive instead, the roads will become a bit of a nightmare, won't they?
Well, we've got to monitor that closely because what we're seeing at the moment is we've seen a slight uptick in public transport use in the last week, and we expect that will increase again on May the 25th as kids go back to school and parents go back to work. But look, we're not going to have exactly the same economy and exactly the same workforce as we did pre-pandemic. We know that there will sadly be less jobs than there were before. We'll see people travelling in a different time pattern. We'll see that spread across the peak, so that will help us in terms of social distancing. And look, some people will have tried different modes, for instance active transport, and have really liked it and may well stick to it.
Minister, thank you for your time.
Thanks, Jess.